Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 119. And today we're going to talk about how to add more value. So, before I go into the teachings, I want to welcome you to March. I know if you're listening to this in real time, this is the beginning of a new month. And this month, so this is March 2025. I know people often find these episodes later, but if you're listening to it during this time, this month's theme, so to speak, is being the pillar of light in the storm. Be the pillar of light in the storm. That's the masterclass I'm going to teach this month. And it's really going to be about what does that mean and who is calling us to do that? And really it is the divine mother, right? That divine mother aspect of source, of God, of spirit is calling all of us to be those pillars of light in the storm. And whatever that means for you, if the storm is internal, maybe you're going through a lot in your own personal life, or if the storm is the collective, maybe you're looking around at your clients and students and they're going through a lot, or you're looking around at the world and you're just seeing how much is going on, how many storms, so to speak, there are. And you might be questioning, like, how can I stay in my center? How can I be a presence of peace and love in these storms? So in that masterclass, I'm going to be sharing with you kind of like these. We're going to be using the metaphor of a pillar, like really seeing yourself as this pillar of light, not a robot, not like your head buried in the sand, not like I don't feel anything, but still being your beautiful human self, but being in this pillar of light. So whatever storm is swirling around, you're still this light. And I'm going to talk about the three aspects of that pillar. And this is really for all of you. Everything I do is all my teachings, all my classes, all the coaching I do, right, is for the helpers out there. And whether you are professionally a helper, a wellness professional, a therapist, a coach, or you're in any other field, but you have this longing, right? Your prayer, your intention is to bring healing to humanity through your artwork, through the food you bake or cook, through the work you do in tech, whatever it is. And so I've been having these conversations a lot with my clients recently of like, how can I be that lighthouse? It sounds beautiful, but what is actually the practice of that? So we're going to talk about that that's going to be March 24th. I'll put the link to sign up for that. That is a free masterclass, and you get the replay for 7 days. Now, if you are my coaching client, you get the replay for as long as you're my client. So I know many of you really get a lot of like extra support from those teachings. I also want to remind you, you don't have to wait till March 24th. I have some slots available for a free breakthrough consult. Remember, if you haven't heard me say this is our breakthrough year, I've decided, right? This is a year where you, me, all of us helpers, all of us who have had this longing to be of greater service, greater impact, regardless of what the challenges are in our external life and your own personal life. This is the breakthrough year. So one of the things I offer is a breakthrough consult, and this is a 1-hour consultation where I will help you get clear on where you are now and where you want to be a year from now. Just that is valuable enough to really get clear. It's amazing when you really ask yourself that, the fears that can come up, the confusion that can come up. So for you to really get clear, like, wait, where am I now and where do I want to be? And then to help you identify what are the actual obstacles that are in the way. We often think certain things are the obstacles, and those aren't the things. And so through, creating this compassionate space for you and my 15-year experience in doing this work, I can really hone in and zero in on like, okay, this is the top obstacle or the top two. This is actually what you need to focus on that will help you get the result you want at the end of this year. And then I'll also help you create like a simple plan for that. And so if I feel like I can help you further, I will also share the details of my coaching programs. So that is a breakthrough consult. I'll put the link to that. I think I have a few slots left in March. If you go to the link and you're like, I don't find a slot, email me and I'll put you on a list. And as soon as something opens up, I'll reach out to you. It would be my honor to talk to you. You don't have to prepare anything. A lot of people have been asking me that question recently, and no, so I don't want you to feel like you have to have all this clarity before you go in to talk to me. In fact, that's the whole point. The point is to give you clarity. The other question, I want to bring this up because this has come up recently too, is I had a few people ask me about age and these, like, do I have a cap and how old you need to be or anything like that? Absolutely not. I have a few clients who are in their 70s. I have a few clients who are in their 60s. I have clients who are in their 50s and 40s. I think I have clients in their 30s and students all age. So whatever age cycle you are in your life, and if you're a helper, but in this moment you are in recovery, I have a lot of clients in that too. I've been in that space. So wherever you are, again, you are welcome. So let's get into this teaching today. How to add more value. So if you're someone who wants to help, you have an intention, even if you're not aware of it. It's always this intention of adding more value. Helping means adding value, right? Helping means, and I hope you cannot hear this loud sound that's out there, but they just started mowing something. So helping is adding value, leaving a space, leaving a person better than they were before you arrived, right? Something like that. You know how they talk about that in the forest preserves, like leave it as it was. But this is actually when you're here with this prayer to be, or this intention to be a helper, you're constantly asking that question, how do I add more value? And adding value is really your form of service. And it's not meant to ever be capped. I know sometimes there's these thought errors that we have a peak, like we reach our peak, we added so much value, and now there's a decline. But that makes absolutely no sense from a spiritual perspective, because the value, you're not just a human, right? You're having a human experience, but you're a soul having a human experience. And your soul is infinitely valuable. Just like you've heard me say, your soul has infinite capacity, your soul has infinite value. And so it makes no sense that your soul would decide, okay, you've shared all the value, that's it, right? We are actually meant to increase the impact of our value throughout our lives. Now, it might shift, it might change, that makes total sense. But we are meant to add more and more and more value. This isn't about hustling or never resting or any of that. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So how do you add more value? This has to do back to this, one of my core teachings that I've talked about before, but I'll repeat it here, is sharing your soul's medicine with more impact. So I'm going to break down to you what your soul's medicine is. Your soul's medicine consists of 3 parts, right? Your soul's medicine consists of all of the wisdom, the increased capacity, the compassion that you have gained from the transformative experiences in your life. That's the first aspect of it. So really think about that. All the transformative experiences, I call them in the trainings that I do or with my clients, I call those initiations. But I don't want you to get distracted by the words. It's all the transformative experiences you've had in your life. Many of them have been challenging. And so all those experiences and the wisdom you've gained, the compassion you've gained, the increased capacity you've gained from those experiences are an essential part of your soul's medicine. Even if those experiences, you look back and you're like, oh, well, it wasn't a success, I failed at it. That's absolutely still, that's like gold. That's some of our most amazing contributions and value we can add to the world are from those experiences. So that's the first part. It's like a formula. That's the first part. Plus the unique, how do I want to call it today? Like the unique gifts, aspects of the divine, of spirit, of God that the divine gave you, right? So I absolutely know and believe that every human was bestowed with some unique aspect, unique combination of, I'm just going to use the word God, but please replace it with whatever word you resonate with, of God's love and perfection, right? So it's like you're a unique fingerprint of the divine. And so that's two aspects. So one, all that you've gained from your transformative experiences, plus the unique fingerprint that you are of the divine, those unique gifts, aspects, thoughts. And I mean, talents is one aspect of it, but I feel like when we think of talents, we can get tripped up. Like that used to trip me up so much when I would think, well, what are my talents? I'm not, I would just think of the kind of obvious, like being musical or being a really good artist. And I never fell into any of those categories. So I don't want you to get stuck in that. It's just knowing there's this unique essence that you have of the divine. That was your unique inheritance, right? That you received from God that nobody else has, right? So again, your unique transformative experiences, right? The wisdom gained from that, plus these unique gifts, aspects of God that only you carry, plus your professional training. That's like the least important part. I mean, it's got a place, but this world gets everything so upside down that people can really focus on the professional training, but that's not your greatest impact. All combined together is amazing. I mean, I'm so grateful for my professional training. It allows me to share my medicine in more impactful ways, but that's not what's creating results for my clients. It's not my professional training. It's all those other things combined with that. So those are the three aspects of your soul's medicine. I've talked about this many, many times before, but if this is your first time connecting with me, or even this is one of those things you need to hear over and over and over again. So when we talk about adding more value, what the goal is, and how do I share more of my soul's medicine? It's not how do you make it more powerful, because your soul's medicine is already potent and powerful and what the world needs. But we have internal obstacles that prevent us from fully sharing it. This is what I coach my clients on. So much of it is that. And I could list a bunch of obstacles, but I'm just going to list two, okay, that kind of encompass everything and they overlap. So one is self-doubt. Any form of self-doubt that can, it can look like insecurity, it can look like self-criticism, it can look like needing to prove yourself, self-doubt. And it's a very human experience. So there's no judgment if you have this. Of course you have this. You're human. I have this. It's like, oh, so that self-doubt creates like if you think of a car going through a road, right? And just like unencumbered, like if you've ever been on a road trip, we moved to Mexico, gosh, a year and a half ago, and we don't have a car, which is lovely, amazing. I love it. I have no regrets. We haven't needed a car here. But in Chicago, where I was born and raised, you needed a car. And my husband and I used to we took a lot of road trips. We drove to North Carolina from Chicago. We drove to Albuquerque, New Mexico from Chicago. And when I was a young child with my parents, who are Mexican immigrants, we would drive from Chicago to Mexico, to the state of Michoacan, which is in the southern part of Mexico. That was a long trip. So if you've ever been on a road trip, and I love the parts of the trips where you're just like driving and there's like no traffic, there's no speed bumps, and it's amazing if it's like a beautiful background. I remember the first time we drove to New Mexico, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful, right? And so imagine that your soul's medicine could move through you like that, like this open road, and there's nothing blocking it. Or it could be a road that has a lot of bumps in the road, other cars in the road. Maybe there's some, what are those called? Like holes, like in the road. I also experienced that a lot in Chicago. And then you see the ride is more bumpy. There's not as much flow. And so again, going back to how do we add more value is, oh, we need to recognize what are the bumps in my road. And self-doubt is one of those, right? Self-doubt. And the other is attachment. And again, they overlap. And so attachment is when, and I'm saying it overlaps because attachment comes from insecurities, from any sort of self-doubt, is when you tie your self-worth, when you connect your self-worth to the value you're adding. So this is where, and this is like this creates a lot of stickiness because it's hard to just share your medicine openly when there's attachment to how are people going to respond? Are people going to judge me? Is this going to actually be helpful? Or am I just going to be ignored? There's all this attachment. And that's, again, a very, very human experience. That's why this is such a courageous journey, right? And so it's important to know, like, oh yeah, there's obstacles. There's obstacles that get in the way of me fully sharing my medicine. And so again, adding more value is you want to clear that. But today, what I want to teach you is kind of like a different way to look at that. I've done a lot of teachings and I still do. And when I coach my clients, we do a lot of inner work on like, okay, finding those parts of them that might be holding these old insecurities and helping them release those and all of that. All of that is so valuable and powerful. There's another way as well. It's like combined together is so powerful. And so I want to share, I'm looking here because I wrote the steps down. Okay, so these are the 4 steps. I'm going to teach you them right now. Okay, and so first step, to add more value, right? How to add more value. And before saying more, I want to say this is an ongoing practice. So it's not like, oh, I've healed all my obstacles and my soul's medicine just flows out of me without any obstacle. No, this is like an ongoing practice, right? But the first step, which is often probably always the first step, is to set the intention. So your first step is just setting the intention. I want to add more value to the world, or more value to my clients, to my students. I want to add more value. I have that intention. And it's like, and it's coming from this pure place. Even if you recognize you have attachment, even if you recognize all those things, you can still access that like pure desire. Like, yes. And you're setting that intention, and who you're setting it with is your soul, right? You're saying, okay, beautiful soul, I have that intention. I want to add more value. I know you are invaluable. Like your soul has infinite value. And so you're like, I want to add more value. So that's the first step, because without that step, I mean, it's a lot more bumpy, right? Even that first step is everything so powerful. It's like your soul hears you like, oh, okay, you want to add more value. Awesome. The universe is going to align with this desire you just put out there. Notice that it has nothing to do with how many action steps you take or how busy you are or any of that. Okay, so that's the first step. You set the intention. Beautiful soul, I want to add more value. And I know that happens by me being able to share my soul's medicine with more impact, with more flow, with more ease, with more power. So that's step 1. Okay, step 2 is not that you set the intention, is you're going to ask, beautiful soul, show me, what is the obstacle that is getting in the way? And I really like, when I ask this question, I really like to kind of constrain it to like, the what you could ask it this way. What is the one main obstacle right now that is slowing the effectiveness of my soul's medicine the most? Rather than show me all the obstacles, like, no, okay, what is the one? What is the one right now that you want to show me, that you want me to look at and be like, okay, that's the one. And so it might be, insecurity. It might be feeling like you don't really have a lot of value. Maybe there's a part of you that's like, well, I guess I believe my soul has infinite value, but I don't believe I do. Maybe it's that. Maybe you're going through a really challenging experience right now, an illness, uh, some other stress, and you're like, I don't think I can add more value right now. So maybe that's your obstacle, your belief that you really can't add more value. Right? So just checking, ask your soul to show you what is the obstacle. And if in this moment, you can just bring your hands to your heart and just tune in, like just asking that, okay, soul, show me what is the obstacle. What is one of the main, maybe your soul will show you too, but what is that obstacle? Maybe it's like lack of energy. Maybe you're like, oh, I just feel so tired. I don't think I can do it. And if you want to share it in the chat or in the comments, share what that is. Remember, your soul never judges you. And the other thing I want to say is when you ask your soul a question, your soul always answers, always, because your soul loves you unconditionally. But sometimes you won't be aware of the answer right away. So if in this moment you're like, oh, I don't know what the answer was, that's okay. Just know it's going to be revealed. Okay, so that was step 2. Now, this is where it's a little different right now. There is the path where step 3 could be you're asking your soul, okay, now help me clear that obstacle. And that is a very powerful practice. And again, I've done that many times, and I help my clients do that, not only by asking their soul, but then also by being their coach, right? And helping them kind of navigate and look at like, oh, wait, what is this thought error I'm having? Or what is this, this old trauma or old wound that I have that I can let go of. In this moment, we're going to go a little different route, and they overlap. Step 3 will be, okay, now I know the obstacle. So increase my capacity, my ability to share my soul's medicine, even with this obstacle still in place. So this is slightly different. You notice that? And I feel like this is an up-leveling for me, because what I have been realizing is that you could, so this is, I'm going to try to put this in words. When you ask your soul to help you in that way, what you're asking is your soul to fill you with more light, so that the amount of light you have is so big that even though the obstacle is still there, you're way bigger than the obstacle. So that's different than like, get rid of the obstacle. And the reason this is important is because sometimes, especially if it's been an obstacle you've been working on for a long, 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 long time, right? So for example, one for me that I worked on for such a long time was just like anxiety. And I've realized looking back that yes, I've done a ton of work with my own coaches and energy healing and all of the things to help those parts of me that carry anxiety and all of that. And that's still a very powerful path. And the more I pray, the more I coach with my own soul, right? The more I ask my soul to increase my capacity, the more my soul is showing me like, oh, part of what's happening is as I learn to embody more of my soul's light, I still have the part that's anxious. I still have the part that can freak out about this and that. And it could be very powerful and strong, but my light can grow so big. Not that I'm pushing them away in any way. It's just like, oh, I can already move forward even as that is still being cleared, even if it never gets cleared. This is a little bit of what we'll talk about in the Pillar of Light Masterclass, by the way, because that's what we're doing. We're becoming that pillar of light. So again, step 3 is saying, okay, beautiful. So I see what my obstacle is. I see that it's just this crippling insecurity or this fear that I just don't have enough energy. Increase my capacity to share my medicine even with that. And I just feel like it's an up level because your soul's going to get to work on that, right? Because your soul will maybe we'll clear it. Like, okay, I am going to clear it. Or maybe we'll be like, awesome, we're just going to increase your capacity to hold more light, so that even if you have that part that's like, I don't have enough energy, you're going to be aware of that, but you're still going to be like, but somehow I'm going to still do this. Right? That's just one example. And so that's step 3. And then step 4 is start to visualize, like envision that version of you, that you that is moving forward with the obstacle's still there, but you're sharing your medicine more deeply with more impact. Like really connect with that version of you, really see. And you might just see it in the little moments, right? Like you might, when you envision that aspect of you, you might envision something that seems very simple, right? Something that, so for example, let's say your biggest obstacle when you ask that question, when you're asking how do I add more value? And the biggest obstacle that your soul shows you is actually this like self-criticism, like intense self-criticism. Things that you might tell yourself, like, I'm behind, I should be over this already, I shouldn't be feeling this bad. And so your soul's not saying that you're right. Your soul's saying that's actually the biggest obstacle, the way you're judging yourself. That's the biggest obstacle. And then you're asking, okay, so I see that obstacle. Teach me, mentor me, increase my capacity to actually still be able to add more value despite the way I'm talking to myself, right? Despite that, even with that self-critic that's there. And then as you ask to be shown a vision, to envision that new version of you that can do that, what you might envision is you actually walking around your house and getting ready to judge yourself really harshly for whatever the reason is. And instead of doing that, you're like, oh, you don't do that, right? It's like you hear the critic, but you don't do that. So instead of that, you go read, or you go do some artwork, or you go do some yoga, or you go post something on Facebook, or you go and actually start envisioning, these new clients you're working with, or whatever it is, right? And so this is what's really important, what I've started to appreciate more and more. And I did write about this in my first book, right? That your soul leads you in step by little step. And it's really like your soul leads you in these mini transformations. It's those mini transformations that create the big momentum. We think that it's got to be this huge thing. And maybe you will. Maybe when you do this practice, you will envision some really kind of, you're on stage and you're doing all these things. And that will be perfect for you. But it's not always going to be that. Like the path to the stage might be, well, actually always is, the little mini transformations. It's that version of you that comes back to the light, right? Comes back to that knowing that you can always add more value. You are always meant to add more value. And that can widen your understanding of what that looks like. Because again, if you are, whatever it is, whether you're recovering from an illness or you already feel right now you're at your capacity of how many clients you can have or how many customers you can have or any of that, and you're like, I don't even know if I want to add more value. Absolutely yes. Because this is the thing. Even when you're at your capacity or what you believe is your capacity, adding more value, when you add more value, what that entails is what I said before, you're receiving more of your soul's light. You are blessed in the process. It's not, beautiful soul, help me just hustle and do it all the time and never rest so that I can help all these people. That's an old paradigm that came from lots of problems. And so even if you're at that, if you feel like, oh, I'm just at this level, right now I feel capped, just know that that's just right now. Your soul has infinite capacity. So you can ask, when you're asking to add more value, you're asking to be blessed more, is what I'm trying to say. So this is so important because, again, this is one of the things, that I coach my clients on so much is this knowing, remembering, like, wait, your soul has infinite capacity. Ask for more from your soul. That's what adding more value. So adding more value to the world always, always will bless you in the process. And not just like a little, but like a lot, right? That you will become that next version of you that can add more value. And so to recap, what are the 4 steps? Well, let's just recap the whole thing. I'll try to do this quick. 1, you are meant to add more value throughout your life. No matter what is happening, no matter what is happening in your life, whether you're in resting mode or very active mode, we're always, always, always in this, especially during these times, in this accelerated adding value journey. 2, the way you add more value is by sharing your soul's medicine. Sharing your soul's medicine with the most ease and flow and impact. What gets in the way are obstacles that we have. And 2 of the main ones are self-doubt, whatever that looks like for you, self-doubt and attachment, right? So if you're just joining us now, you can rewind and listen because I explained that a lot more. So then I talked about the 4 steps to help you add more value. 1, first step is you're going to set the intention. Literally, you're going to tell your soul, beautiful soul, I want to add more value. I want to be able to share my soul's medicine with more impact, with more efficiency, with more flow, with more reach. Even if you're like, I have no clue how I'll do that, but I have that intention. Okay? And then step 2, you're going to ask, show me, what is my main obstacle? What is the obstacle that is most in the way? And be ready to be surprised, right? This is, again, what I do in the Breakthrough Consult, right? Because a lot of times you might be like, well, the biggest thing that's in the way is, my house is getting repaired and I just don't have time to do anything. That's my biggest obstacle. That's what you think the biggest obstacle is. Your soul might show you, actually, this is the biggest obstacle because it's always internal, right? And again, remember, your soul's doing this with so much love, unconditional love, and so grateful that you're talking to your soul, asking these questions. Then step 3 is you're going to ask your soul to increase your capacity to be able to share your medicine with most impact and flow and efficiency, even while having this obstacle. And step 4 is you're going to envision that version of you. Like really receive that vision of you. What does she look like? What are the little things how does she respond differently that you're responding now? What are the different choices she makes? And again, these might be mini transformations. All right? Okay, so I would love if you want to share in the chat or share in the comments any of this process, what, the obstacle that came up for you or what you envisioned. I would love to hear it. Remember, the masterclass this month is Be the Pillar of Light in the Storm. That is coming March 24th, but you don't have to wait till March 24th. I have slots open already for a free breakthrough consult. Well, I will help you break through. That's really the point. That's really I will help you really identify where you want to go, like where you are now, where you want to be. Like, what are the desires of your heart, the dreams of your heart, right? The intentions of your soul. What is the main obstacle and what's a simple plan to get there? And then if I feel I can help you more, I will share the details of my coaching programs. All right, I'll put all that information in the comments. And I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I can't remember. Oh, I'll also put the link to sign up for my newsletter because that's the best way to stay on top of everything that I'm sharing, because there's also 2 eclipses in March. There's the equinox in March. So I might be doing some other special thing for that, but I haven't zeroed in on the date for that or how that's going to look. But if you get my newsletter, I'll be sharing all of that there. All right. Bye, everyone.